coming up on show 521, record-breaking Goodwood, record-breaking Bjorn Nyland, and question of the week has the potential to get me in trouble this week. Well, those stories and many more all coming up today. Hey, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. Welcome to EV News Daily, Sunday 7th of July edition today. My name is Martyn Lee. What I normally do is go through every EV story that I can find to pick out only the stuff I think you need to know about. Today, though, we add in question of the week. It's always a longer show on Sundays as well, because through the week I collate your answers to our weekly question, and then you do a takeover if you like. You take over the show, and so that's coming at the end of the news today. Thank you to myev.com, by the way, free resource for buying and selling and learning about EVs in the USA. Free, but what does free really mean? What's the catch? There is no catch, but free? I mean, really free? Can you buy and sell a car? And what's in it for them? It's completely free. A fabulous resource to get more and more people in the EV that they want. Only in the USA, much to the sadness of many people here in the UK. myev.com. Over the weekend, I saw that the PCP, Personal Contract Plan, I think it stands for, is up for the Tesla Model 3 design studio for the spec that I would have, by the way. Not that you asked, but I'll tell you anyway. That would be the performance version of the Model 3, so long range, all-wheel drive. I'd have it in black, so that's a bonus, because I think it looks super cool, and that happens to be the free colour. Sidebar, I thought the free colour was changing to white in July, according to an Elon tweet. Maybe there's some delay with that. Got to go performance upgrade, got to go full self-driving. In the UK, that puts the price at $59,890 for the spec that I would go for, by the way. $59,890 on PCP. If you're financing that, £6,000 down to Tesla, £817 a month over 4 years. If you're doing hire purchase, which has been the only finance option up until now, well, that is £937 per month versus $817, with £10,000 down versus 6,000 over 5 years rather than 4. And of course, the thing with hire purchase is at the end of the agreement you own the car, whereas with PCP, you hand the car back or you give them some cash. And so it's a very popular way of people driving new cars, not something that I do. I don't really do finance apart from the mortgage that we have to have on the house. If anybody wants to give me a few £100,000, I'd happily pay this bad boy off and then be without any. Call me distrustful of the finance industry and banking. Shock horror. So not something that I would go for, because I buy used cars and I buy them in cash, and it's why I don't have very nice cars. But there we go. Hello to Don McAllister. Is a man who has some very, very nice cars, by the way. Recently had a Kona. That's now gone. Waiting for his all-wheel drive long-range Model 3. Congratulations, sir. Don from Screencasts Online. Apple fans will know what I'm talking about. Don also has a petition online, in this country at least, against the 20% tax hike on solar. This is part of the madness that we are facing. They give speeches. Our government gives speeches saying that they're green. Outgoing Prime Minister says that she wants to leave a legacy. At the minute, that legacy is adding 20% VAT on top of solar installations. Deep joy when it's 5% at the moment. Massive tax increase on solar installations from later this year. Check it out. I'll put a link in the show notes if you want to see Don's petition. Over 10,000 signatories already. I'd love to add your name to the list as well. So we mentioned a record-breaking Volkswagen I.D. It's improved the Goodwood Hill Climb record. This week is the Goodwood Festival of Speed, where all sorts of people turn up to that event. Everyone from racing drivers who are driving the cars to members of the public going along to just have a look. I even saw Joni Ive there at the Goodwood Festival of Speed. There was some sort of Cartier judging thing that Joni was doing, as in ex-Apple, the man that designed the phone that you might be listening to this on. So Goodwood attracts all sorts of people, but it does attract those looking to break records. Yesterday, Romain Dumas made use of another run in the Volkswagen I.D. up the hill climb and improved the all-time record to 39.9 seconds. 39.9 seconds, a new record for Goodwood, and that smashes the previous record of 41.18. That was done many, many years ago in a Formula One car set by Nick Heidfeld, 1999, in a McLaren MP4 13. It's amazing. We're more than certain that 20 years ago nobody would ever have imagined, says InsideEVs, that an electric car could be quicker than a Formula One car. The Volkswagen I.D, driven at Goodwood, is a special version of the car, different to what set the recent lap record of the Nürburgring. This has got a smaller battery pack, 7 kilowatt hours odd in this bad boy. Track length is 1.16 mile. Why bother hauling those lithium-ion batteries that you're not going to use? So they really are custom designing the spec of the car for every different event that they do, and of course it's a Pikes Peak record holder as well. Now, Jaguar Land Rover has announced it's going to build a new range of EVs at its manufacturing plant in the UK, somewhere called Birmingham. And the Evening Standard says that honouring its commitment to deliver EVs for all new Jaguar and Land Rover models by next year, the new generation all-electric Jaguar XJ. The Jaguar XJ will be the first vehicle in the range entering production, crafted by the team behind the Jaguar I-Pace. Of course, not the lead designer, who has now left, but otherwise the same team. The brand's first all-electric car was the I-Pace, and I don't know about you, but I thought they did a ruddy, marvellous job with that car. Well, the new saloon promises to deliver in design, performance and luxury. The company's given no indications as to when it might take to the road, though, but I must admit I'm excited about a potential Jaguar XJ all-electric kind of Model S territory. Marking the next stage of their strategy, the news is seen as a major thumbs up. It's probably a double thumbs up, actually, to the UK automotive industry, which has been hampered by some factory closures in recent years. The sweet spot, by the way, for that in terms of their market is the upmarket. In terms of Jaguar, that's going to be the upmarket, probably even Land Rover, Range Rover SUV segment, but like with some serious off-road chops as well. So don't be holding out for a cheaper EV Jaguar, but you know, a bit of nice margin on that for the automakers. The further up you go, you get those expensive cars. It's a nice tasty margin on those, so it does make sense to start at the very top. Let's move on to another record that has been broken, and this time it's by a YouTuber. His name is Bjorn Nyland. He's Norwegian. He is eccentric, I think is how I will describe Bjorn. He's been making videos for donkeys, and he has set a world record. As he says on his video, he did a 24-hour live stream. Now, he's got two channels. He's got his Tesla Bjorn channel and his live channel, and yes, I have been watching the live channel. I've been watching someone drive a car for 24 hours. However, the reason he did this was to break a world record. And as he says on the video, he didn't invite Guinness because he didn't see the point of it, because the whole thing is streamed, the whole thing's got GPS, the whole thing has been documented online, so it's clearly he did it. He did those miles. He has managed to drive 2,781 kilometres, that's 1,728 miles, in exactly 24 hours. He did it in a Tesla Model 3, long range, all-wheel drive, a new distance record for a pure electric car. Now, what Bjorn did is he used the Ionity network of quick chargers in Germany, because currently that network is quicker than Tesla's superchargers, because remember, we don't have supercharger V3 over here in Europe. I mean, heck, in the USA, you've barely got supercharger V3. It's at Hawthorne and Fremont, the two. They've only got like two locations, I think. Correct me if I'm wrong. Mega Tesla fans. Jameson Dow for InsideEVs says that Bjorn wanted to emphasise the record would be done in realistic conditions. Now, this is actually, for me, this is the key thing. So, if you're going to do a record-breaking attempt, you would do it on a racetrack. You would probably do loads of trial runs to find out the absolute optimum speed. Maybe you do it on some low rolling resistance tyres. If you're going to set a record for the farthest an EV can travel in 24 hours, none of that. He did it on public roads, and he did it at some pretty realistic speeds as well. Wasn't a closed course. The record was set in Germany on Germany's autobahns, and he was doing it at high speed as well. He stuck to around 170 Ks, that is 105 miles an hour, for much of the time. Now, by staying at high speeds, what he did was then in between stops, he would just do a little splash and dash and then get back on the road. By doing 105 miles an hour, the average speed for the 24-hour period was 72 miles an hour. Essentially, he was able to travel the same distance as if he drove on US highway speeds consistently for 24 hours without stopping at all, like driving non-stop 24 hours at 72 miles an hour or 115 kmh. And he did that by, like I say, going really, really fast, but then stopping at the Ionity chargers and going from 10% to 63. So he worked out the sweet spot for charge speeds, because anything above 63, the starts to slow down. He worked out that actually, if he could always charge from 10 to 63%, he was doing about 120 kilometre loop, I think. He would be able to get the best possible range. He did a brand new world record in 24 hours, the farthest an EV has ever travelled. 2,700 kilometres, 1,700 miles. Absolutely brilliant. And who says that EVs can't do long-distance road trips? All right, moving on. The Swedish electric car maker Unity, with the Unity 1, is now available to pre-order with your deposit of just €149, says Push EVs. Now, usually small cars are really boxy, they've got bad aerodynamics, they look like trash, but that's not the case with the Unity 1. 2 tandem seats like the Renault Twizy, so one in the front, one in the back, so to speak. This electric car is perfect for the city environment. 240 kilometres of range, 130 kilometers an hour top speed, rear-wheel drive, dual motors, 120 kilowatts of power, and a little tiddler of a pack, 26 kilowatt hours with some DC fast charging. A great little city car. Don't know how many they'll sell, don't know where they'll sell them, but you know, it's super cool. Right, final news story today is all about Extreme E. The Extreme E series is all about taking electric cars to parts of the world and racing them. And the Extreme E car ran up the Goodwood Festival of Speed hill on Saturday afternoon yesterday. According to Jalopnik, the Extreme E truck is about 7.5 foot wide, 6.5 foot tall, and 14 feet from front to back. The whole thing is about £3,600. Each of the tyres is 37 inches tall, loads of sidewall, big, knobbly Continental rubber tyres to keep the thing moving forwards, whether they're going to be doing some EV racing on sand, ice, dirt. The truck will come into contact with every different extreme weather. Hence why the new motor racing series is called Extreme E. It's just a show car for now, and the rest of the cars I think are going to be built by, I think they're called Spark Racing Technology or Spark Racing Technologies. They are the company that build the Formula E chassis. To demonstrate the finished product though, one turned up at Goodwood and everyone had a good old butcher's at that. Let's move on to question of the week, which could have potentially got me into some very hot water this week, and a couple of times it did. I was saying about my stats for the podcast. At the minute, about 90% of the downloads are made by men. When I went to Fully Charged Live and I was looking around, I was thinking this is a bit of a sausage fest. There just weren't enough women at Fully Charged Live. There aren't enough women downloading my podcast. Why isn't it a 50-50 split? And so I was asking you, are EVs a guy thing? Well, thank you very much to everyone who emailed me and left a comment. Far more than I can get through in the 20 minutes that I like to do this podcast in. Hello to Rajiv, who said 90% of your listeners might be male, but I'm not sure that necessarily means that EVs are a guy thing. Currently, 85% of car purchasing decisions, here we go, are made by women. And women are more likely to buy new cars than compared to men when you look at the stats. Now, that's really interesting, Rajiv. Thank you so much for sending that on. Men are more likely to be the ones that close a deal at a dealership, but that doesn't mean women are not involved in purchasing. Whether the vehicle's an EV or not, a better question would be, why are 90% of your listeners male? Martin, is the challenge he sets me. Oh, well, that would be the regular diet of sexist jokes and boob pictures that I put up on my Twitter feed. That's what it'll be, yeah. Hello to Brian Weatherall. To avoid any generalising, I'll take the safer option, says Brian, and talk about the woman that I know best, my wife. I'm also safe to know that she doesn't listen to your podcast. She would no more go to an EV event than go to a normal motor show. To her, the car is a way to go places and spend their money. Taking the Leaf means that she can spend less of the money on fuel and more of your savings on the stuff that you really want to spend your hard-earned cash on. But I'm happy it's usually the first choice out of our two cars. She loves driving the EV. I can tell you in the UK, the Nissan Leaf owners group, the gender split's about 75-25, 75% men in the owners group, says Brian. So many of the men go for some chat, some banter. Many go to ask for help. Some men just do need some help, let's face it. Hello to Howard Anthony Smith. I do not think the demographics of your listening audience are reflective of how women perceive EVs. For example, my spouse really hates listening or watching TV shows about cars, but she loves driving her plug-in Prius Prime. She's excited about the prospects of a Model Y when they become available. He has female co-workers, he says, who drive Teslas and are constantly evangelizing the benefits. It could be that stereotypical males love learning about cars and stats as a way of playing verbal top trumps with their mates. As if we do that. Personally, I find knowing about EV statistics provides me with something to talk about in a social setting. Talking about EVs in comparison with ICE cars allows me plenty of material to engage with my muscle car owning friends. And that gets onto a stream of emails that I had. From Steve James is the first one. Men just enjoy cars more than women across the range. It doesn't mean that they're into EVs. It's petrol, diesel, plug-ins and BEVs. Men are just more into cars, he says. Greg Leff says, a brief note about your question of the week. Here in Southwest United States, in an affluent suburb of Phoenix, Arizona, we have loads of EVs running around our streets. Not a scientific analysis, but he would hazard a guess. About 30% he sees are women and the rest are guys. Because it could be 50-50. In his own household, Greg has 3. A Nissan Leaf for his daughter, an i3 driven by his wife, and Greg's the one driving the fossil gobbler. So 100% of the EVs in his house are driven by the girls. What you're likely seeing in your listenership is the fact that men are more likely to nerd out over EVs and want to listen to a podcast talking about them. Women just drive their cars. They enjoy their cars and enjoy gas-free miles. Hello to Brenna. Now, Brenna Kaminsky. I've been involved with EVs, says Brenna, since 2012, and after years of running EV education events, advising on infrastructure, and co-founding 2 clubs, I launched my own EV consulting service. If you want to check out her website, it's evgal.com, EVGAL. Before launching the website, I noticed that most of the other consultants out there are men. Almost most of the videos made on YouTube are by men. And the majority of the EV conversations on platforms like LinkedIn are dominated by men. I know there are other women out there, but we aren't being invited into the conversation. That's interesting, Brenna. I don't think you don't need to be invited. Just start or jump into the conversation. I guarantee that what you have to add is probably better than most of the men in there anyway. Hello to Stephen and Michelle Liu. I believe your 90% male following on YouTube is simply a representation of the market who follow motoring and technology trends. You'll probably find your followers fall into the 25-65 age group who would have income necessary for those items. Sandy, with an I, Sandy Williams. I have a Model 3 Performance, and I love it. Yeah, triple love. I listen to you 4 to 5 days a week. Your podcast came preloaded as an app on my car. Really? Did it? I know we're on TuneIn with Teslas. That's awesome. So in case you think women aren't listening, I am. And I love hearing about what's happening in the EV world. It's nice to listen to someone who isn't Tesla bashing. Hello to Vedas. I was asking my missus last night and she's simply not interested in things like tech specs. She wants a car that can safely get her from A to B in comfort and in style. And Vida says, I think you mentioned your wife is the same. Maybe it's a man thing. So whether we are nerding out over stats of V6 BMWs, V8 Mustangs, V12 Ferraris, or a 22 kilowatt hour Renault Zoe. Hello to Charlie. Male Charlie. Charlie Fox says, in the case of my home, my wife doesn't really care about cars. She doesn't see a value in high dollar cars. She would be happy with our 2 Priuses. Yes, self-charging hybrids. In my case, I'm not a car or a truck person. However, I am interested in the environment and emissions, and from this have been waiting on electrics since GM started making and then crushing their electric cars. And this makes me seek out shows like yours to keep up with events. My wife has moved to agree with me that we won't buy any more ICE cars, and the next one will be a Model Y. Hello, Tom. Now, Tom Raftery says, rightly or wrongly, men tend to care more about cars. Go out on the street right now and check out the gender of the drivers passing, and there'll be more men driving cars. How many married couples do you know where the guy wants to drive the car? If they're going out together at the weekend doing some errands, the guy wants to drive. And so they go together, and I kind of know where you're coming from with that, because if it's the 2 of us, I'm always like, I want to drive. I just love driving. My wife gets no pleasure out of driving, whereas I do, because I'm just in competition with myself to do the most efficient miles. Hello to Aaron McInnes. Are EVs a man thing? No. Listening about EVs, researching and dreaming is a man thing. It's more likely that men will spend time thinking about the car. Women who drive EVs really love them. They're just not obsessive. Hello to Ian. Ian with an I. As in IAIN. EVs don't seem that unusual in my group of friends. I wonder if gay men are more likely to be environmentally conscious and, as a result, more likely to be interested in electrified transport. That's a good shout, actually, because people who are generally more aware of the world around them are into things like sustainability, into EVs, into caring for the human race, and especially if you are, perhaps if you've been discriminated against at some point in your life as well, it certainly makes you hyper aware of being a good human being. Hello to David. Or Daffyd. I think men are more likely to be nerds for research reasons, some of which maybe that many view cars as more than a tool. Women, despite some men's attempts, still do most, if not all, of some family things, I guess, with the children. All too often they have little time to be obsessing about irrelevancies, such as whether this car can do this or that car can do that. I know what you mean. If you listen to conversations over like drinks in bars and pubs, women's conversations are inherently just more interesting because they'll talk about juicier stuff, whereas men really will just want to talk about stats, and whether it's sports teams or whatever. Our conversations are pretty dull. I love it. Hello to David Finch. Now, David Finch checked the list of people who used his workplace EV chargers, found that 7 are men, 5 are women, a very small sample, but that's, near as damn it 50-50. I think women are likely to own and just as likely to drive an EV as a man, says David Finch. Men are more likely to geek out about them, though, and listen to things like podcasts. And finally, to John Fruworth says, in the early days of computing, computers were a male thing, and it probably was, in the very early days of computing, it probably was 90% guys and 10% women, until social media came along. As soon as that happened, women then took over in terms of technology, and they indulged their top priorities, which is to have relationships with others. And of course, that's what social media does. It connects you with other people. And so, and that's exactly where women, I would say, excel far better at having relationships than us guys at times. That's our question of the week. There was so much more that I could read out. It was a risky one, wasn't it? I mean, that really could have shot myself in the foot. I think we got there just about without me coming across as too sexist, because, we started from a position of fact, and we started from a position of genuine curiosity. And of course, this is not binary. This is just shades of grey. It's not like saying it's an either or. And so the thing that I hopefully all week have been saying is that just as there are many men online that geek out over EVs, there are some absolutely brilliant YouTube channels. No podcasts that I know of, which is a little annoying, but mostly YouTube channels that do really, really well. Some great bloggers, some great writers, and some great influencers and EV evangelists in the space, who are all women. Who cares what sex you are? If you like an EV, you like an EV. But it's a fascinating conversation that I was having with someone that I met earlier in the week as well, and we sat outside and we had a coffee, a little cafe in London, and we watched the world go by for a couple of hours, and we chewed this over. And it was one of the things that I was saying to her, actually, that I find, so kind of interesting about how far we've come. This is a slight digression, but like how far we've come, but still how far we have to go. And I have huge hopes, enormous hopes for the future, but I think it is only really kids growing up now. I still think that you need to go down to the under 15 generation where they literally don't care. Boy, girl, whatever, I'm going to do what I want to do. I would like to say it was a generation above and it's like 25s and under, but I'm just not, I'm not convinced, and maybe it'll change as they get older. But the kind of kids that we have in my life, and my nieces and nephews and godchildren, and certainly at their ages, sort of under 10, under 12, they certainly have a life outlook that they will do whatever they want to do. And a lot of those traditional gender stereotypes just aren't there for them. So that gives me a great hope, but also so much more to do. We need more really strong female role models, particularly in motor racing as well. I love my motorsport. And where are the female Formula One drivers? Where are the gay Formula One drivers? Or if there are, they're not out. And so I don't know if any of the current Formula One drivers are having to keep any secrets, but it sucks that people can't be who they want to be. In this country as well, footballers. So we've had the Women's World Cup as well. Congratulations, Team USA, I should say. Oh no, I didn't spoil anything there, did I? You weren't waiting to watch anything? No, it's been long enough now. And so that has garnered a lot of attention here, but I hope that attention just doesn't just filter away, and that lots of young girls were watching that and being like, cool, I want to be a professional footballer. And absolutely, why not? So lots of bright signs for the future, and I think we navigated a potentially tricky question this week. Should we set a new question? Yeah, go on, here we go. Right, you've got a week to get this one in, and I think this is going to be equally, in a very different way, contentious. All right, time for a brand new question of the week. As always, thank you to myev.com for setting our questions of the week. So, with things like electric motor racing and Bjorn Nyland's electric record being set, these things are undoubtedly beacons that generate publicity and get people into EVs. But inevitably, you have to burn some fossil fuels to do these things. So should we? Interesting question. Yeah, I mean, I don't think you can argue with that, actually. So to get Formula E up and running, the support vehicles will be diesel. The trucks that bring the cars will be diesel. You're telling me that everyone that goes to a Formula E race is going in an EV? No. And even the ones that do, is it 100% renewable? When the cars are, the EVs that are travelling to a Formula E event, are they all travelling on 100% renewables? No. Over the weekend, we've had some really great... Actually, over the last couple of weeks, no coal has been burnt here in the UK for almost 2 weeks. I think Germany was down to 13% over the last couple of days. So amazing work is being done, but still, Bjorn Nyland's record-breaking attempt, depending on where he charged in Germany, would have had a degree of fossil fuels being burnt for that electricity. And I've seen nothing from Ionity on this. It's the network he used, but congratulations to Ionity for doing the challenge with him and giving him the free juice. So what do you think? Things like electric racing, setting electric records, inevitably means burning fossil fuels. So should we be doing them? Let me know your thoughts. You can email me anytime, hello@evnewsdaily.com, or you can leave a comment on Facebook and YouTube. I'd love to hear from you. There are 500. No, there aren't 500 patrons. I'd love it if there were. There are 230 patrons of this podcast, and thank you for your generosity and helping me make this show. They have funded the last 520. If you want to see the full list, you can online right now. Thank you to Phil Roberts from Electric Future, our premium partner of the show. Thank you, Phil. Hi to Brad Crosby. Appreciate it, Brad, so much. And Avid Technology, our 3 premium partners. Hello to David Allen, a partner of the show. David's been with me a long time now. OEM Audio of New Zealand and evpower.co.nz. Hello to Paul O'Connor, a partner, and Gerard and the gang at tryev.com in the UK. And all of our exec producers. Are you ready? If you want to skip through these names, I mean, just hit plus 30 seconds, but I'd rather you didn't, because I like to give these people massive credit. Alan Robson, Alan Shed, Alex Banahini, Alexander Frank, Anders Hove, Harold Giersch-Galsveen, Ashley Hill, Bjard Fuchstack, Barry Pedeston, Bob Muir from GingerComputers.com, Borislav Borisov, Brent Kingsford, Brian Thompson, Brian Weatherall, Cesar Trujillo, Charles Hall, Chris Benson, Chris Hopkins, Craig Coles, Craig Rogers, Damian Davis, Dan Fairs, Darren Bird, Darren Sun, Yorkshire EV, Dave Jewson, David Barkman, David Finch, David Partington, David Prescott, Dirk Rotzatz and Don McAllister, awaiting his Model 3 from screencastsonline.com. Enrico Stefan Schillo, Frederick Rovick, Free Jewel, aka James, George Cligo, Jack Oakley, James Storr, Jason Fan, Jeff Urbies, Jerry Allison, Jill Smith, John Bailey, John, who is Beardy McBeardface, Kent EVs, John Nodell, Juan Gonzalez, Ken Morris, Kevin Emerson, Carl Mayen, Lars Dallinger, Lawrence D. Allen, Leo, Lejet Grill, Louis Hopkin, Luke Cully, Marcel Lohman, Marcel Ward, Marlin Shell, Martin Croft, Matt Piccioni, Matthew Ellis, Matthew Gruby, Maz Shah, Mia Oppelstrop, Matthew Pastrodi, Michael Cuffin, Mike Rogers, Mike Winter, Nathan Gore Brown, Neil E. Roberts, Sussex EVs, Ohad Aston, Paul Ridings, Paul Seeger-Smith, Paul Stevenson, Perry Simpkins, Pete Glass, Peter and D. Roberts from Oxfordshire EVs, Phil Mouchet, Pontus Kinblad, Raj Badwell, Rajiv Narayan, Ralph Jensen, Rene Schneider, Rob Cooling, appledriving.co.uk, Rob Hermans, Robin Tanner, Rupert Mitchell, Sarah McCann, Sari Kangasoja, Seiki Payne, Steve John, Stuart Hanna, The Limousine Line in Sydney, The Plug Seeker, running his YouTube channel, Tim Gutteridge, Walter McVeigh, and Mr. Zach Hurst. Thank you very much for supporting the show. You can find out what it's all about, patreon.com/EV News Daily. If you can leave a little review for this show anytime on Apple Podcasts, it makes a really big difference. And leave a little star rating, that'd be amazing. Leave a few words. I read every review, by the way, and so it's just super cool when I get a little email, comes through, ping, you have a new review. Oh, yes, awesome. So I love to see how people listen to this show, where they listen, what they're doing when they're listening it. You know, keep it PG, please. And if you can leave a review, it'd be amazing. In the meantime, come and say hi on the socials. Have a wonderful day. I'll catch you tomorrow. And remember, there is no such thing as a self-charging hybrid.